Welcome to the latest episode of the Construction Insiders podcast, where our host, Jessica Bush, talks with industry experts about new trends, best practices, and how to successfully deliver construction projects in today's market. Whatever your role on a project, we think you'll find these discussions interesting and worth your time.
All right, well, thank you, Jason. It's been a while, but we are back and we are kicking off our Insiders podcast once again. I have with me today, talking all things San Diego, we have Brooks Rykoff and we have Matt Reed. Brooks handles our San Diego market. He oversees what's going on, making sure everything is moving in the direction it should with our team, with our clients. He's just our go-to guy here in the market lead in this Southern California region. We also have today Matt Reed. He is our lead PM for the San Diego region, so he gets in the weeds, sees what's going on, what's shifting, and what to keep an eye on to make sure that our clients see the future that's coming. So thank you both for joining us today. We will start with just some really basic kind of overview of what's going on in San Diego. I know a lot has changed since we last did one of these podcasts on the market with everything we've experienced over the last couple of years. So, with that being said, really just to jump in here, when you're looking at San Diego as a developer, for example, what is enticing? And there's people talking about this recent boom locally. Where did that come from? What are you guys seeing on the ground? Where are we at this moment, San Diego?
So that's a great question. San Diego is such a great location in general, right? It's some of the best weather in the country. What makes San Diego such a great place to live is the lifestyle that it provides. And that flows right into why it becomes such a great development community. Because people who have that intellectual property and who are the thinkers and the scientists and the people that are developing COVID viruses and those sorts of things, they want to live in places where they can have high wages and they can have a lifestyle that fits their beaches and sunshine, 72 degrees all year. And San Diego fits that to a T.
Provides the balance.
Absolutely.
In terms of, being a developer, where is this recent boom coming from?
The recent boom has been because of the housing crisis. California has declared a housing crisis there aren't enough homes. There aren't enough affordable homes. San Diego in particular has never been one where wages have kept up with cost of living. And after COVID, we saw dramatic inflation, as many of the listeners I'm sure are experiencing through construction costs and land costs and even with home prices. So in addition to that, we've seen a dramatic change in retail, how individuals are shopping. We've seen a dramatic change in how people are working. And that's causing disruption in the market, makes developers think. And they think about what the future is.
And get creative.
And they get creative, yeah. Exactly. And they start taking risks, because that's what developers do. They take great risks and they receive great rewards.
And I think to piggyback on that, we see the change in the landscape based on how appealing it is to live here.
Yeah.
We see all those opportunities that the developers just can't get enough of, and coupled with the growth that we've seen in housing and the changes in retail and the changes in office. Number 3, biotech and pharma, or primarily biotech and research, market diagnostic market in the country. So that life science is always played a huge role in San Diego, and even more now than I feel like ever. We've been in this market for a long time, coming one of the earliest markets that we got into in the U.S. This is probably the hottest we've seen that piece of the industry, and it's been like that for years. And I know this is not new news, but it's really exciting.
Well, and Brooks, speaking of not being new news, the education systems we have here, the higher education, that has to add some stability to things. Is that helping, hurting, not impacting the boom? How do you see that?
It can only help, right? Again, research plays a huge role in life science, in all kinds of in pieces of the industry. So having top flight universities right here in our backyard, San Diego State, UCSD, USD, several other highly touted community colleges and districts that have really developed over the years, they, again, make it one more reason for it to be attractive to be in San Diego. I won't claim to know where UCSD is ranked, but I know it's up there near the top. And people say, not only can I go there and get a great degree, but I can also live that lifestyle. And then I can just be offered a job that allows me to stay in that market in biotech or life science.
It's that high-paying job.
And I can start the path on that lifestyle that we talked about. So not only people relocating to the market or already in the market, but also those who start in the market and just grow their families here.
And Jessica, to that end, we see that with the spending that's happening on campuses, right?
Okay.
UCSD planned to spend in excess of $6 billion over the next 7 to 10 years on infrastructure improvements. And that just makes it more attractive for the pre-med students, for the students to come here. Plus the lifestyle. You can't ever forget about the lifestyle. That also provides such a benefit to a student that wants to come and
that's why
go
we're
to school.
all here. It's the balance, the work, the lifestyle,
Absolutely.
all of it. Talking about that, we talk about everyone being local and loving it, and the people on the ground that know this market. But what about the developers that are coming from out of state? And I'm sure just every day in your job doing all of the project management work with the clients, you probably see that all the time. How are you kind of handling that, getting them acquainted with the market and kind of the shift of it all?
Well, the best thing about coming is our people. And like me and many others, we have former developers, we have former architects, we have former owners, right? Mm-hmm. So we experience that, and we have real knowledge in how that works. But to answer your question, to come in from the outside and to get into the San Diego market, as a developer, you have to have a land position. In many other states and many other development communities, land is not a big deal. If you want to take your business and you want to move a little bit further into the suburbs, which we're seeing a migration right now of workforce wanting to leave downtowns, right? Yep. The downtown areas. You can't do that in San Diego because there is no land, right?
It's an ocean or
exactly. They're not making anymore. So that makes it particularly difficult because most all the land is already owned. And if you don't have the land position, you don't have the opportunity to do that deal.
Yeah.
I think coupled with that, Matt, something that we've talked about a lot is what a strong network of relationships there are in San Diego in the development community. It's a very relationship-based city and construction economy. And a lot of these really well-positioned developers and clients of ours have been here a long time. They know how things work. So a new developer coming in, seeing the enticing propositions that we've talked about between lifestyle opportunity, development opportunity, and life science and all that good stuff, it's not easy to come in and see I'm the new guy in town because these people have been doing it really well for a long time.
Yeah.
And we get contacted all the time by general contractors and other industry professionals that might be in Orange County or Los Angeles. And they look to us to say, how can I get into San Diego?
Oh, so it's even our neighbors.
Absolutely.
Okay. Interesting. And so talking about the market, healthcare, life sciences, those are things that we keep hearing. So what are some of the most notable projects in development right now? What are people's eyes on? What does that look like? What's the impact to our region, those projects?
In San Diego, that's an easy question. IQHQ right downtown. They are what's happening in San Diego and are the biggest mover and shaker, I would think, in the development community, taking a big risk, taking life sciences and the biotech hub, which used to be Torrey Pines, and shifting it south. And that is a brilliant move and a big risk move for them. to that end, it's going to change the dynamic of downtown. It's going to cause for higher end hotels to be developed because of the influx of travelers. It's going to cause for office space to take on much more of a creative look, much more of a, rather than just plain Class A office.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to need to take on a little bit more of the San Diego vibe that you see in make it more attractive for that intellectual property. So it's that one development alone is going to change the face of downtown San Diego.
And it's already spurred additional development in that same vein with Horton Plaza.
Yep.
So we see these developers, IQHQ might have been, with the RAD development, might have been the first to the table, but again, they're seeing the opportunity there. It's exciting for downtown. We saw the great revitalization that came to parts of downtown when the ballpark was built at Petco, and this is going to do similar things for Harbor Drive and the waterfront and that district there.
Without a doubt.
So we talked about the shift of life science going downtown. What's going on with multifamily? What's going on with hospitality? Where do we see those going? Are they moving, and how are they affecting the market?
Multifamily is hotter than ever. I think in single family, we have seen in the last 30 to 45 days a drop in the average home price. We're starting to see the single family stay on the market a little bit longer. But what's interesting about the single family product versus the multifamily is that it really doesn't change the multifamily need. Developers receive bonus incentives through Senate Bill 330 to add density to their developments as long as they provide low income and very low income options.
And that's all over the news locally about finding spaces.
That's
incorporating that.
San Diego, they've introduced transit priority areas, which provide you additional density bonuses and parking incentives. The Complete Communities Overlay Program, which primarily follows the transit priority areas, provides even additional bonuses.
Wow, okay.
So it's a very, very attractive market, and it's all driven on the land price. Because if you don't buy the land right, and if you don't get that metric exactly correct and can't provide the reasonable density bonuses for the property, it just won't work. So it's a very interesting dynamic and relationship between the two. But and then lastly, Governor Newsom just introduced for single family properties that not only can you put ADUs, but you can now split your property into 4.
I just got that email from my city. Yes, I thought that was very interesting.
So
that's going to change a lot.
You can see the demand is there. It will always be there, at least for the foreseeable future. And that will continue to drive the housing need in San Diego.
And so, Brooks, how does that have a chain reaction, or does it with hospitality? How are we seeing that shift at all in the market, or how are you feeling with that?
I think with hospitality, it might not have a direct correlation with multifamily and high density, residential housing, but ultimately, if more people can live here, more people come to visit them potentially. Right. That's one way to look at it. But I think more some of the other sectors we talk about with life science and kind of the draw for lifestyle and specific expertise and professions in this market are what are going to ultimately drive hospitality to the next level. Supporting developments downtown. We talked a lot about life science downtown, but Serrano Mesa and the Torrey Pines area, those are still very hot redevelopment type of areas for life science, where developers are coming in and building either new campuses ground up, which are kind of farther, building new campuses from ground up that are kind of farther and fewer between now, but we also see repurposing of existing assets. So what I'm getting at is all of those projects that are still coming online, they're going to need places for people to travel and conference, and as we see it continue to things like the convention center, that's that's still going to have to change. You know, San Diego, I don't think, is going to be willing to give up what they've built as a, you know, portfolio for events at that convention center just because of its size constraints. You know, the hope is that we can find a way to get that solution adapt and change.
And look at all the signs that are happening, right?
Yeah.
The airport expansion, right? With the terminal expansions, and right, we have the busiest single runway in the world, and there's no talk of shared use like there was 10 years ago at Miramar. Right, that conversation is completely over.
Right.
But and you see it at UCSD with the infrastructure improvements like we talked about. So if you look at the signs are all saying that development will continue here.
And so a topic that, you know, I guess we can't avoid because we're still in it. Let's talk about the post-COVID recovery. How do we compare as a community to other Southern California neighborhoods, communities, regions? What does that look like? Has that impacted us on a day-to-day job level? What is that looking like? Where are we at with all of that?
Coming as an organization had to flex just like everyone else when COVID hit. You know, March of 2020 was a really interesting time for us, specifically in San Diego. We were excited about moving into a new office, and 4 days later, we all had to go home. And you know, we followed the protocols to maintain safety for our team here in SD, and really to figure out where we were going next. And the immediate challenges that we saw from our clients were, we need some certainty around something. We didn't know exactly where we were going to find that certainty, but like we do, you know, you start to research and you start to dig into what our clients' needs really were, and we found that not everybody was going to shelve their project or stop their project. It was really about, okay, if I delay or I pause, where's the cost impact? Primarily, we focused a lot on cost analyses and studies. We looked deep into commodity markets and labor trends and things like that were changing every day.
Right.
And I think that's where we found the most value for our clients. We didn't see a huge slowdown in our business. We really just had to react to the changing requests.
But talk about a time to be an expert and needed.
Right.
I mean, it's been the last 2 years of where our clients are, at least from my perspective, relying heavily on us and really trusting what our data, what our research, what our experience is telling us, because no one's had to go through this before. But now it's been almost more important than ever to really have our team and our experts. And like, you know, Matt, you were saying earlier, we pull from the architects, from the developers, from all these different kind of sectors and specialties, and bring them all in-house so that when things like this do happen, they're beyond unfortunate. But we had a team here with all different types of education and perspective and experience, and I bet that was really helpful to our clients.
Absolutely. Our clients came looking for answers when COVID hit.
When we didn't have answers.
When lumber was going through the roof, right? And, you know, we told them that wasn't sustainable. That wasn't an inflationary factor. That was not sustainable. It simply had to do with the supply and demand of what was going on. And that has now come to be true. Brooks, I think lumber has come down basically to pre-COVID levels.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking back at our market data, like Matt alluded to, we didn't see it as a sustainable trend for lumber, for what copper was doing, for what steel eventually did, and concrete, some other, you know, major building components. But we just needed to try to figure out when. And we did see in the late third quarter, early fourth, lumber had made a big shift in the market. You know, I always joke that it's a very relatable thing for someone to now be able to go into Home Depot and buy 2 2x4s instead of just one that day, because the price has changed, you know, by over 50%. It was a scary thing for a while, but being able to give clients confidence around the fact that this is a blip on the radar and not a trend, a long-term, you know, issue, was really vital.
So talking about commodities and trends, Is there something you guys are looking at right now, keeping an eye on? Is lumber can we move on from lumber? Are we still watching lumber? What is it right now that we're nervous or keeping an eye on?
I think everything, right? That's our charge, and it's a low hanging fruit answer, but really that's what we do. We have a team of construction economists that work here at Cumming. They give us pricing insights on a weekly basis that we ask our team across the nation and internationally to digest and think about so that we can inform our clients. I think some of the concern has shifted away from specific commodity prices and focused more on lead times, durations, and supply chain.
Interesting. Okay.
And as part of that, we are doing the same to flex with that new concern. And it's not a new one; it's been there for a while. But I mean, you look at the Port of Los Angeles and the backlog of cargo ships that are sitting out there in the bay waiting to be offloaded. The number changes from day to day, but it was 65, then it was 85, then they offloaded a few, and that's a major thoroughfare for goods and things coming into the country.
Yeah, that's a great point, Brooks. And to your point with the supply chain, the developers and the contractors that are ahead of the curve right now are thinking about ways to shorten the duration of a project. And one of the big materials that we're talking about right now is CLT. It's mass timber. It's approved in California for seismic. It's being used up in the Northwest quite a bit. And it not only provides for, reduction in carbon footprint of a building, but it provides for expedited structural system of a building. It can cut 3 to 4 months off of a construction schedule. And when you're looking at $150,000 a month for general conditions and general requirements for a general contractor, those numbers start to add up. So there's one big trend we're seeing, and we're seeing clients ask Cumming once again, what is the advantages and risks that we face?
We've just gone through a very successful project. I believe it was down in Nashville. The Nashville warehouse was mass timber, and seeing all of the benefits, where it was coming from, how to get it there on time with all of the changes in the market. It was really interesting to see that, but we have that successful project under our belts again, and now being able to share kind of those lessons learned and all that with clients.
Yeah.
Changes.
And that's the beauty of what the Cumming organization has, right? We've got a worldwide breadth, and we can hear those case studies that are coming across the country and apply it and give our developers and our clients the comfort to know that here's a case study, here's what's actually occurred, and they love that. Yeah. Exactly. Yep. That's real value.
Yeah, and so talking about labor and commodities, I think that we can jump to just general construction costs right now. How is that, if at all, affecting development? Are we just riding kind of the wave and seeing what happens, or are we kind of putting different suggestions out there?
We do see, developers across the country have different risk profiles, right? Some are big risk takers, others are more risk averse, and they all exist in the world. And the risk averse are, in some cases, are pushing the pause button, and they're saying, we want to wait till we want to give it 6 months. We want to see if things settle a little bit more. And then we have others that are pulling the trigger and paying outrageous amounts for land and can see the costs, but they realize that California is California, and California real estate has never gone down or trended down in the history of real estate in California. So they see that, and they recognize that, there might be some dips and there might be some valleys to get through. But in general, it's a very positive market to keep investing in.
Because we're out of land, as you mentioned earlier.
Because we're out of land.
And the return on the investment, they can still see it.
Absolutely.
They can still work through a pro forma. They can still develop, all of the due diligence that they need to work through to make an informed decision. And we're a big part of helping with that at an early phase. But the value is still there. Even with high prices for most project types, the need being so prevalent, the value is still there. Don't get me wrong. There's some times that we offer our opinion on cost, and it causes our clients to either have major pause or, just like Matt alluded to, rethink what they're doing or change their program or something like that. But for the most part, we're seeing projects find a way to get built, which is great.
And so, those are some of the, I hate to use the word challenges with this market, but you really have to be smart about kind of that ROI and that cost breakdown, and especially right now, really navigating that risk. But I'd like to end on a positive note, and I know as a market, it is one of a kind, and there's a reason it's a hot market. It's a reason that we're sitting here today. So what does the future look like for San Diego?
Without a doubt, the future is very bright in San Diego. Like we've said many times now, they're not making any more land. San Diego remains to rebound from any economic or real estate dip that happens. It's one of the first in the country to rebound. And Southern California is as well. But we see these areas and these sectors, office, retail, industrial, hospitality, multifamily, and we see them changing in various ways, both because of the way our workforce has changed with COVID-19, some policy changes that have happened up in Sacramento, and with the way that the construction industry is changing and having to evolve a bit to accommodate for all these things. And like I said before, change means dollar bills for developers, because they can be creative and they can make a difference, and they can create and make places to work that people love to work at. That's a horrible sentence, but nonetheless, that is San Diego, and it'll continue to be there. San Diego's a military town. That's one thing we haven't mentioned, right? It continues to be. It's never going to leave, and that continues to be a nice balance for San Diego to become so over expensive that it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's another reason that there is stability here.
Yes,
with the military, the Navy, and the Marines, and all of that, it provides a little bit of calming,
Absolutely.
nature, I'm sure, for the developers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, Matt did a great job summing it up, where the future, what the future looks like for San Diego as a construction economy, as an economy in general. It is strong, and the military is a huge piece of our business here in San Diego, working for entities like NAVFAC and owners and the related projects around that space. It has wide-reaching implications, and it's not always the most high-profile or well-publicized work, but it really is a huge part of the economic and construction engine that is San Diego. And then the last piece that I want to say is that healthcare has remained very strong. Healthcare is a piece, again, of our portfolio in San Diego. Has been really exciting the last couple years. We saw that as kind of a real kind of buoy to our business way back in the recession as well. So we know that healthcare will continue to see us through, as well as the military. So just a couple nods to those pieces of the industry, because they're always going to be important in San Diego.
Well, wonderful. It's been a pleasure and really insightful to kind of hear you guys' take on the market and what we should be looking forward to for the future, and keep going in a good direction. So it all sounds positive, and I just gotta thank you guys for taking the time. I know you guys are slammed, so yeah. Thank you.
Thank you,
Jessica. It's been great.
If you enjoyed this episode of Construction Insiders, we encourage you to check out our website at www.ccorpusa.com. That's ccorpusa.com, where you can find our full knowledge library under the Insights tab. It's all great stuff. We're really passionate about it, and we hope you'll check it out. Thanks for listening.